Atlanta Summit on Global Health and Hunger. We welcome you and all the people viewing via the internet around the world. We appreciate your being here. Welcome to this forum. This summit is, as you know, a second in a series, but today we're focusing on food and nutrition security. This event is organized by the World Affairs Council of Atlanta, by CARE USA, and the Center for Strategic and International Studies based in Washington, D.C. And we present this here to the audience on behalf of many people on all of these three organizational teams who have worked so hard for many months to make this event come to fruition. This summit today follows the inaugural conference we held last year entitled Global Health and Water. That summit focused on the importance of sustaining America's leadership in global health and the critical role that water plays in positive health outcomes. This year, our three organizations have once again come together to organize the sequel, to focus on the critical intersection between food and nutrition security and public health among some of the world's most vulnerable populations. We are very grateful for our sponsors. We could not do this program or even begin to organize it without them. And you see on the screen those partners: the Coca-Cola Company, UPS, Cargill, Bank of Montreal Harris Bank, Georgia State University, Georgia State Robinson College of Business, and AGCO. These are the principal sponsors with the three organizing organizations. But I also want to draw your special attention to the back of the program. This program also cannot take place, and the efforts around global health and nutrition and food security cannot happen without all of these collaborating organizations, these cooperating groups who have helped us so much in thinking about the issue and putting forward the program today. Please note them, and we welcome them and are grateful for their support from the beginning of this. A big thank you especially to Helene Gale and Steve Morrison and their amazing staff who have turned out once again for a great collaboration and culminating in this event. This event cannot also happen without the passion and compassion of Helene and Steve and all of their organizations and what they mean to the world of global health, and we're grateful for their service. The huge response that we see here today and through the internet is reflective that the Atlanta community is really engaged in this subject and knows the importance of global health and food security and nutrition, and it means so much to so many people in this room. Our sponsors have made this program possible, and they've made it possible to have it here so that we can have practitioners from all areas of concern to be in the room, and we're really grateful for that. I also wanted to note that in the Atlanta context, it is always good, I think, in these meetings to recognize the great legacy not only of Atlanta and its wonderful institutions, but the legacy of Robert Woodruff, the former chairman and CEO of the Coca-Cola Company, who had great vision over decades to see how to form and how to be inspirational in moving forward an agenda that puts Atlanta at the center of much that is happening in the world in the field of global health, and by extension through Georgia into agriculture and sustainable agriculture. We are grateful for that legacy. But today we need your input. We need new thinking and bold new action to address the subject that we have today. I'm grateful for your attendance. I'm grateful for the speakers who came from Atlanta, but also from great distance to be here with us. And I'm especially honored to present to you now and introduce someone who needs no introduction also here, my wonderful colleague and collaborator on this program and the President and CEO of CARE, Helene Gale.
thanks so much, Wayne. And it really has been wonderful for us to continue this partnership with the World Affairs Council as well as CSIS and present this second in our series of global health summits. And each year we have kind of stepped back and looked at, in this notion that Atlanta really has something special to offer, given the mix of organizations here, really something special to offer around the issues of global health. And it's global health and the things that we think about all the time in terms of specific health interventions, but it's also these other things like water, like food and nutrition security that are part of the whole global health picture, but are sometimes not always thought about and included. So we've really looked at these summits as a way of bringing some of the things that wrap around what is often traditionally thought about in the context of global health, because Atlanta has some of the incredible resources to bear on some of these issues. And so we're pleased to have this summit this year on global health, but with a focus on food and nutrition security. And as Wayne said, we couldn't have done this without the incredible partnerships. I won't go through all of the sponsors, but the sponsorship really is core to our ability to put together a high-quality conference like this. The collaborating organizations that were mentioned. And I also want to just say to the counselor corps that's with us today, it means so much to have you as part of our global community here as well. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And to all of you who are here, and as I look out, there are so many people who are long-term friends and collaborators from around here in Atlanta, but also around the nation, and it means so much to have people who are all gathered here around this common purpose. And it really gives me great pleasure to see the range of partners from government, from civil society, from the private sector, because I think it's these kind of partnerships that give me both the optimism and the sense of gratefulness when we think about how we can really make a difference. Grateful because clearly you represent some of the progress that we've already made and progress that we've made thus far, but also optimism because it's as a result of the people in this room and the different organizations that you represent that we're going to be able to continue to work on this in a way that will have even greater impact in the future. So let me just say a few words to frame this and say a little bit about the problem. And I know people in this room know a lot about these issues, but sometimes I think it's good to just step back and think about what are we really focused on. So you can take any statistic, whether it's the fact that every 5 seconds a child dies from hunger-related disease. And I think that's something that gives me pause when I think about what that really means. That almost 900 million people in the world go to bed hungry every night, and what that means. I know we've all heard statistics like this. We could all quote different statistics, and no matter what we think about when we think about this issue of food and nutrition insecurity around the world, I think our instincts are to tell us that it just isn't right. When we have plentiful food around the world and we're blessed to be able to, if we're hungry, go to a supermarket and get food, that there's something that's just not right about something so fundamental as the ability to have appropriate nutrition and adequate food. So, I think that's why we're here. And in the midst of this, I think we often sometimes feel powerless by the enormity of this problem, and we think about the statistics and the numbers, but we know that we aren't powerless, and we particularly aren't powerless when we think about what we can all do together. We can take action, and we can help, and we can make a difference, and that's why we're all here today, coming here in Atlanta to share our knowledge, our experience, our ideas, so that we really can do what I think we're all committed to doing here, ending chronic hunger and malnutrition. As I mentioned, our city has really become a hub for global health, and we have many of these Atlanta-based organizations, CARE, CDC, the Carter Center, the Task Force for Global Health, the academic community, all here engaged in this issue. And we're here today also not only to share our expertise, but also to give voice to these issues and to provide a voice for the voiceless. So advocacy is core to our agenda at the state, national, and international levels as a key to how we address hunger. So it's not just the programs we do, it's not just the research that we do, but it's also lending voice to these issues and being able to talk to our elected officials and others, policymakers, about these issues. And in that regard, I'm happy to see our CARE Action Network advocacy volunteers here, because I know they are going to be leading the charge in helping to make sure that these issues don't go without voice. So today our summit is going to highlight and demonstrate the clear value of working together and all the different partners that are working together to eliminate global hunger. We're going to hear compelling views from experts in the public, private, academic, and not-for-profit arenas. We're going to strive to strengthen these partnerships so that we don't leave here as strangers and that we build the kind of networks that go beyond just a meeting. And finally, we're going to contribute to national and global conversation and policy processes that are ongoing that seek to end global hunger. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. We're arranged today in 3 different panels, and you'll hear more about that. Steve Morrison will be leading one that's going to focus on the contribution of government, philanthropic organizations working together to eliminate hunger. I'm going to have a discussion about innovative approaches addressing the root causes of malnutrition. And then the last session of the day is Wayne Lord, who will be leading one with the public and private sector to address the immediate and long-term hunger needs while continuing to meet the bottom line. So how do we look at this from a business perspective, as well as hearing 2 very stimulating keynote addresses that will give us kind of broad overview and perspectives on these issues. So let me just wrap up by saying, I think we all believe that with consumed investment and comprehensive approaches and a commitment to equity, we really can beat this issue of food and nutrition insecurity and turn them into food and nutrition security. And I think that's our goal. It's going to take 3 things. It's going to take partnership. And, again, that's why it's wonderful that we have all the different sectors here who will share their expertise and build upon common approaches. It's going to take leadership in government, and you're going to hear more about that from Senator Isakson, but I think this is an important moment right now. We've got 3 different vehicles to work on food aid reform that's going through Congress and is in the President's budget this year that gives us a chance to look at food aid in a different way, in a more flexible, more efficient way that can have a greater impact for people at greatest need. And then finally, it's going to take all of you. Your voices, as I mentioned, do matter, and we want to hear from you. We've actually constructed this meeting a little bit differently than we did last year, where we're actually asking people, both the people who are listening, and we're live streaming this, as well as you in the room, to be able to send your responses through Twitter, and there's a hashtag, I guess you probably have it, but it's Solutions to Hunger. I don't know if we have it on here, but, oh, okay. It is somewhere? Oh, okay, all right. There's the hashtag. I don't know much about hashtags, so that's why I get confused about these things. But we want you to Twitter and share your thoughts, questions, and comments. On our face page, www.care.org, we also have the ability to share your comments on that. And then over the next few weeks, we're going to compile all of the comments coming from you and from people who are listening to this and develop an outcomes document. And so we really want to have your thoughts become part of this outcome document that we're going to share with policymakers. So share with Congress through Senator Isakson, share with the administration through Administrator Raj Shah, and with the UN through David Nabarro, who you're going to see a video clip from. So that means that we want all of you, including those of you online, to be actively involved with this through your smartphones, through the internet, and so that we really can do all that we can to make a difference for the almost 1 billion people living around the world facing food and nutrition insecurity. So ultimately, I hope today will leave with all of us inspired to work together towards a world where malnutrition is no more, and towards a time when the only place you can read about chronic hunger is in a history book. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Helene. I appreciate that so much. It's my honor once again this year to introduce our keynote speaker. There could be no better person to deliver this keynote address than Senator Johnny Isakson. He had a lot to do originally last year and before with thinking about how this summit should be constructed in the broadest terms, and his staff and his team have been involved from the start, and we're all the way through. We're grateful for that, Senator. But far more than, you can look at his biography, but during Senator Isakson's time in Congress, he has consistently been engaged in the area of not only foreign relations of the United States, but in issues of global health and food security, agriculture, and the issues that surround the issue we're talking about today. He has held important related leadership roles, including his current position as a member of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee and the Senate Committee on Finance. Previously, he also held the position of ranking member on the Africa Subcommittee of the Foreign Relations Committee of the United States Senate, and has traveled to Africa many times over the last years. Senator Isakson has continuously provided leadership and given strong support to specific bipartisan supported legislation in the fields of public health, food security, and has been a major advocate for the development of Atlanta and of Georgia as a center of excellence in global public health. Senator Isakson has had more than 2 decades, was a leader in the real estate industry here in Atlanta and in the Southeast. He's a civic and church leader for his whole life. He served 17 years in the Georgia legislature and served 2 years as chairman of the Georgia Board of Education. And in 1999, he was elected to the House of Representatives and served 3 terms before being elected to the U.S. Senate in 2004 and re-elected in 2010. As a government affairs officer of a large agribusiness company in my previous life, with a Georgia agribusiness, several agribusiness companies, I was privileged to work with Senator Isakson and his staff on a number of issues that are crucial to the state of Georgia and to the United States. In all of these experiences, it was clear to me and to everybody that Johnny Isakson is not only the senator from Georgia, but is a genuine national senator, a statesman in the truest sense of that word, whose deep commitment to America's values and security and global engagement is inspiring to us all. We welcome this morning for our keynote, Senator Johnny Isakson.
Wayne, thank you very much for that generous introduction, and it's great to serve on a panel anytime I can with Helene Gayle. I have had the privilege of working with her at CARE on many different occasions, traveling with her to Uganda and seeing firsthand the work of women's empowerment that CARE is doing, and I appreciate very much the opportunity to share the dais this morning with you and with all of you that are here today on what's a very important issue, and that's hunger around the world. In fact, it's an issue not just for the 900 million who go to bed hungry every night, but for everybody who doesn't go to bed hungry at night. It's probably the single most important issue that we could address today in Atlanta, Georgia, and combined with the address we did last year on water, they are the 2 essential things to health, happiness, and national security. A week ago today, this morning at 11 o'clock, I was meeting with the United Nations Security Council in New York City with Ambassador Susan Rice and the other 13 members of the Security Council. And the topic of that discussion was Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb. And the main contributor to Al-Qaeda's movement into the Islamic Maghreb, which is everything west of Egypt and Saharan Africa, is hunger, poverty, and ignorance. Al-Qaeda and terrorism take advantage of hunger, poverty, and ignorance. Because where people are hungry, where they are ignorant, or where they are thirsty, they are vulnerable to whoever will provide them with what they need to get out of their pain, their hunger, and their thirst. And that's what happened in Mali, where I was in February, where Al-Qaeda began in Timbuktu to set up headquarters, to begin doing what it wants to do, and that's establish a new Afghanistan in North Africa. Why? Because of hunger, poverty, and ignorance. So as we gather here today to talk about hunger and the power of helping people who are hungry, we're talking about not just an issue of compassion, but an issue of national security to the United States, but to every other country on the face of this earth. And it's about a challenge of becoming partners with those who are less fortunate than we are. Developed countries meeting with underdeveloped countries to help provide them with security in terms of health, food, and water. What kind of examples am I talking about? I'm talking about the example of the state of Israel, where in Equatorial Guinea I visited 5 years ago a hospital built by the Israeli government, staffed by the Israeli government, paid for by the Israeli government, to bring health care to one of the poorest countries on the face of this earth. Or to a country like the United States of America, which sends its best and brightest around the world to provide help in terms of health and health care. Tom Frieden is here today at CDC. What is CDC? I call it the World's Health Center. Because here on Clifton Corridor and Clifton Road in Atlanta, Georgia, we have the organization that can stop the pandemic of the next century. We have an organization that every day, without credit, without fanfare, goes around the world to save lives and change the paradigm of death and destruction. When I spoke at Georgetown a year ago at the Summit on Child Death, where we're trying to end child death under 5 years old, from lack of water, lack of good health care, and lack of food, we talked about the challenges the rest of the world has and where CDC is playing such an important role. Whether it's trying to get to the last bastion of polio in Nigeria, or whether it's continuing the President's emergency program to eradicate AIDS, whatever it might be, CDC is there, providing health care and health services around the world to see to it that we're a safer, healthier place. Now, why is it important to us in the United States when we have impoverished areas like Nigeria where there's measles and where there's tetanus and where there's malaria? It's very important because germs can travel. And an unhealthy country around the world is a threat to a healthy country around the world because of the seamless nature of our world. And it's important for us to understand the many other ways that we can contribute to help people to overcome their problems. ADCO is a company represented here today, and they're sponsoring here today. In Zimbabwe, they have a working farm where they're trying to teach sustainable agriculture to Africa. Africa is one of the main recipients of federal and national and international food aid, but it's also a place that could be self-sustaining and sustainable on its own, with better education, better techniques, better demonstration, and better development in their countries. It's the same thing Coca-Cola Company is doing around Africa and other places around the world, where they have found the need for clean, drinkable, potable water in villages. I drank in a Coca-Cola cup from a ultraviolet ray plant that was built in Ghana, in a village that was just impoverished, drinking water from a river that was nasty and terrible, but drinking it coming out of this UV-tested water cleaning project, where now this village has clean water for 7 cents a day. People get 5 gallons of water. Why 7 cents? Because 7 cents per consumer, per day or per family, raises enough money to sustain and maintain and keep up the water treatment facility that Coca-Cola installed. So we're not just taking care of people's thirst for a day, but we're teaching them to be able to drink for a lifetime and sustain it. Those are the types of partnerships that deal with the types of challenges that we face around the world in hunger and in water. And as we accomplish and we are victorious, we lessen the pressure of terrorism and raise the power of democracy. But if we look the other way from hunger, if we look the other way from thirst, if we look the other way from health care, we're just opening the opportunity to those who would take advantage of it to do so. And when they do, they hurt all of us, not just the people they take advantage of. We've had great leadership in our country in many ways to look for ways to help solve the problems of the American people. And Helene mentioned one that we're looking to today in terms of the delivery of food aid around the world. America has a problem in terms of its spending, but the world has a problem in terms of its spending. It is a challenge to all of us today to find how to do more with less, how to manage our resources better, how to meet our challenges just not by raising revenues or raising taxes, but by maximizing the expenditure of the money that we have, so we manage ourselves within our means. The program that Helene referred to a minute ago that's in President Barack Obama's budget this year is a new paradigm for the distribution of food around the world. It calls for a $1.8 billion appropriation for emergency food aid around the world. But that's not an increase. But by implementing the new program of ending the program of, not ending, but modifying monetization and increasing flexibility in terms of vouchers and cash, we'll be able to get food quicker and faster and more efficiently when there's an emergency. Now, what's an emergency? I'll tell you what an emergency is. An emergency is Syria. I'll tell you another emergency is Dadaab, the camp in Dadaab in northern Kenya where all the Somalis have come after years of terror in Somalia. And though that's where a lot of the hunger and a lot of the people that Helene mentioned that go to bed hungry every night, that's where they live. And they can't wait the 11 months it takes, or 11 weeks it takes, for food to get from the United States by ship through a distribution center that is at best poor to their hungry mouths. They need us to be able to access that food as close to them as we can, from resources that are available to us as we can, and to do it through a system of vouchers and cash payment, not just the shipment of bulk grain from the United States of America. And this is an issue that we'll be debating in the Congress over the next few weeks as we debate the President's budget. And this week, the farm bill's on the floor, so some of it will be debated in that. But it's important that we think outside the box and that we recognize that maybe it's time we change the way we deliver the food to see to it that we deliver more, because if we make the program work better, if we make it work more efficiently, if we make it work where we're more responsive, for the same amount of tax dollars spent, we can increase food distribution by 25%. And then there's innovation, which we've got to always look for. America has always been an innovator. And I'm so proud that Georgia has the company called Manna in Fitzgerald, Georgia, in Ben Hill County. You know, I'm a city boy, was born in Atlanta. They've always accused me every time I run statewide for not knowing South Georgia. I worked a farm in South Georgia for 12 years. As a young man growing up in Atlanta, when school was out, my mother would ship me to Fitzgerald, and I worked on her father's farm in Fitzgerald, Georgia. But I'm so proud of Fitzgerald for so many reasons, not because it's my mother's home, not because of my heritage there, but because of the company Manna. Manna is a company that today produces millions of packets of fortified peanut butter paste with vitamins and powdered milk that go where? It goes to where people are hungry. 3.5-ounce packs that 3 times a day eaten by a young child with malnutrition can bring them back to good health. That's innovation and use of a Georgia agricultural product that's saving lives and ending hunger. And some of those 900 million that are going to bed hungry are not going to bed hungry anymore. So we've got to innovate. We've got to do a better job of getting the most out of our resources that we can. And we've got to understand that hunger is not just a compassionate problem. It is a problem of national security. And that every developed country in the world needs to partner together to feed the people of the world so that they grow and the countries develop, so that prosperity develops, and so that hunger is no longer a problem, but it is a problem that was solved so people can grow and build and sustain themselves in the way they grow the food, in the way we get the food to them, and the way we meet the health care needs of every developing country in the world. So my message to all of you here today is we're talking about a national security issue, not just a hunger issue. We're talking about the most important issue we could be talking about today. And on 2 successive Mondays, one in the UN Security Council and today here in Atlanta, what's the subject been? The subject's been national security and hunger. So as we concentrate today, let's find ways to collaborate through the not-for-profits and volunteer organizations like CARE, through great institutions like CDC, or through each other to see to it that we meet the needs of the 21st century for those that are hungry, those who are thirsty, and those who are ill. Because if we do, we'll need far less bombs and far less defense and far more opportunity for the developing countries of the world. Thank you for being here today, and God bless all of you.
Good morning. I'm Steve Morrison from CSIS. I first want to say just how excited and grateful we are to be back partnering with World Affairs Council and with CARE again in an annual event that I think is really proving its value many, many times, and we're very grateful to that. Very grateful to the many folks at the World Affairs Council and CARE who worked prodigiously to make this happen. Cedric Suzman, Mish Spink, Claire Morton, Ina Severovich, Maxwell Bonney, and Akin Afolayan from the World Affairs Council, and Alan Seelinger and Beth Ann Cottrell from CARE. Very, very grateful to you all. I want to also emphasize how rooted we are as an institution in Atlanta. That may seem a bit odd that we're a Washington-based foreign policy and national security think tank that over the years has built up a very strong global health program. We're also an institution that has on our board Mukhtar Kent and Neville Isdell, past and former president and CEO of Coke. Helene Gayle has been an indefatigable and very loyal friend and trustee, board member of CSIS for a number of years also, and we're very grateful to her for that role. We have attempted over the years to do programs around the country. We've done them in many, many cities around the United States, and by far this has been the most successful and the most gratifying. Part of that also is that we've developed over the last decade a very close and very fruitful relationship with CDC at the leadership level, at the programmatic level, and field offices and the like. And Tom Frieden and all of the wonderful talent at CDC have been extraordinarily generous to us as a partner institution. When we started our global health program in 2001, John Hamre and I came here. Elaine was working at CDC at that time. Jeff Copeland was the head of the agency. And we sat down and said, look, we really want to get much more engaged in this world, but we need your help. We're not the technical experts. We need a partner, and they were very, very responsive. We're going to begin. Our next step is going to be to hear a short video. It's about 8 minutes long. It's from Dr. David Nabarro, who is the UN Secretary General's Special Representative on Global Health and Nutrition. After we've heard that, after we listen to that, we'll move to our first panel, and I will introduce our three speakers. I just want to say a few quick words about who David Nabarro is and why we've asked him to take the time to record from Geneva to record this for us. David Nabarro, as I said, he's the special representative for the UN Secretary General on Nutrition and Global Health. He has had a 40-year career as a physician, as a medical leader, and in the last 15 years as a very prominent health diplomat. He's shown remarkable courage, commitment, and continuity over the course of his career. Just a few of his amazing accomplishments. Early on, he became a leader of the Rollback Malaria Program. He founded the WHO Office of Health Action and Crises, which has proven in the Syria instance under Rick Brennan's leadership to be absolutely central at trying to mitigate the active targeting and violent destruction of the health system within Syria. David was the founder of that office and led its efforts in Iraq, where he was in the Canal Hotel when that hotel was bombed in August 19th of 2003. He was at the front lines in Darfur. He was quick on the ground when the tsunami hit Indonesia and other parts of Southeast Asia in late December of 2004. On the strength of his remarkable performance, the Secretary General appointed him the coordinator initially for pandemic flu as H1N1 and H5N1 came forward in the last decade, and that was followed also after the food crisis of 2008 as an appointment as a global food security crisis coordinator. So you can see over the span of this career, he has been at the forefront of trying to mobilize international opinion and bring greater coherence and logic to the way that the international community responds to these quick-breaking and evolving major global challenges that do require trying to bring order out of the confusion. And so please join me in watching this. Akin, if you could please tee up the video.
Good day.
When we're done, I'll invite our
This
next three
initiative by
panelists to
the
come forward.
World Affairs Council. Good day. This initiative by the World Affairs Council of Atlanta, the Center for Strategic and International Studies and Care, is highly significant. It brings together senior figures from government, business, and civil society to think creatively and constructively about ways of working together to benefit billions of people. You're exploring the links between food security, health, and nutrition. You are focusing on people and environments that present challenges to all who seek to change and transform their destiny. You are considering what the global community can do and how it can do it. And I'm privileged to be joining you and to be involved with you today. Success in any area of human development calls for broad and inclusive involvement of multiple groups, what we sometimes call a whole-of-society approach. It includes civil society, governments, donors and business working together. It calls for a people-centred response, one where nothing that is done works against the interests and rights of the people who we all seek to serve. And the approach should be truly multi-sectoral, bringing together the expertise needed from different disciplines and government departments. Hundreds of stakeholders have come together to form a movement to scale up nutrition. This is called the Sun Movement. It was initiated by former US Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton and the then Irish Minister for Foreign Affairs Michael Martin in New York during the 2010 United Nations General Assembly. The focus is on the 1,000 days between the start of pregnancy and a child's second birthday, the critical window for child nutrition. 35 countries have joined and lead the effort for scaling up nutrition, with the rest of the stakeholders in the movement aligning support. All are committed to increasing the numbers of pregnant women and young children who receive specific help, like nutrition education, support for breastfeeding, micronutrients, sometimes as supplements, and treatment if they lose weight because of inadequate diet or illness. But there's much more to scaling up nutrition than that. Governments of the countries in the Sun Movement are looking at their strategies for support to agriculture, food production and markets, women's empowerment, safety nets for the most vulnerable, access to clean water and sanitation, education, employment, and a lot more. They're checking that the strategies in all these different sectors are sensitive to and respond to people's nutritional needs, whatever they are. Let's think about what this means for an agriculture minister. In one Central African country, this minister is now regularly asking her senior staff, what can work in agriculture do to impact on levels of anemia in pregnant women? What can agriculture do to ensure that adolescent girls develop to their full physical and intellectual potential? How can agriculture and food systems ensure that children's growth is not held back by recurring weight loss? And how can the agriculture sector reduce the risk of children becoming overweight because they eat too much of the wrong foods? Following the analysis undertaken by her staff, this minister's government has encouraged the ownership of cows and dairy products by smallholders, with excellent results. The same minister recently told me of the priority her government gives to involving businesses in efforts to empower people for their better nutrition. Yes, the overall responsibility for agriculture, health and nutrition policy rests with the government, but businesses, large and small, from farmers to food processors, distributors, wholesalers and retailers, as well as those who provide services on whom they all depend, have a vital role to play in turning vision to action and into results. Business matters in responding to food insecurity, to hunger and to undernutrition. When businesses, particularly local entrepreneurs, are committed to working with governments to achieve better nutrition, they're invaluable partners in helping to find and apply solutions. They offer intellectual capital, research and development, and especially when sourcing from local producers, they can be very helpful with sustainable packaging. They can help produce nutritious products. And we see examples of more and more businesses doing this kind of partnership together with others through things like the new Alliance on Agriculture and Food Security that was launched at last year's G8 Summit. Businesses have so much to contribute to the elimination of hunger and better nutrition, improving people's access to nutritious foods, making sure that all agriculture is sustainable, focusing on the productivity and income of smallholders, reducing losses and improving the quality of food production and processing, particularly of fruit and vegetables, and then reducing the levels of chronic undernutrition, especially in children under the age of 2 years. So my main theme today is an old idea with new relevance. Different stakeholders coming together and working to respond to the needs of families, communities and nations, with their ambitions set on the same goal, but maintaining their separate identities, adding their unique value and expertise, involving the people with whom they work, and demonstrating results and making a sustainable difference. It all sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? But many of you in this room are contributing to such a transformation. And it's an exciting moment, and one to which all of you have already given so much. Your task today is to see how you can do even more and contribute to even better results. Here is what we have learnt in the Sun movement as we tried to make the transformation work in practice. First, support governments as they seek to understand and respond to the needs of their people. Do not just focus on your own professional or organisational priorities. Second, agree on principles of working together, including respect, transparency, equity and social justice, and reflect these principles in your work. Third, negotiate a single set of expected results that the full range of actors will work towards, and align all your actions around these results. Fourth, adopt a whole-of-society approach to solving problems, even if they appear at first to belong to one specific ministry or professional discipline. Fifth, demonstrate results and be careful to attribute success to those who actually achieved it. Most importantly, we find there are challenges in the Sun movement, as in all efforts for multi-stakeholder working. But we're learning that the best way to handle these challenges and maximise the gains that we can achieve together is to be transparent in our decision-making and action. And that means being mutually accountable. This, of course, is easier said than done, but mutual accountability is the ultimate secret of success in all partnerships. I'd like to thank Dr. Helene Gale, a colleague of mine for many, many years, for her inspiration and commitment as a member of the 27-person lead group that provides valuable stewardship for all in the Sun movement. This lead group is chaired on behalf of the United Nations Secretary General by Dr. Anthony Lake, Executive Director of UNICEF. I would also like to thank Dr. Wayne Lord and Dr. Stephen Morrison for their invitation to speak with you today. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge what you all, individually and collectively, are doing as promoters of global health. I'd like to acknowledge what you're doing to work for an end to hunger and malnutrition within our lifetimes. This is what our Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, calls his Zero Hunger Challenge. And whether you are attendees, discussants, or internet viewers at this conference, please do share your thoughts and ideas through the Twitter hashtag #SolutionsToHunger. I look forward very much to seeing your recommendations, and I thank you very, very much indeed for joining me today and for letting me share my ideas with you. Good luck.